Paul will give a brief opening statement, and then we'll open it for questions. If you have phones, I just turned mine off. Henry, if you have a phone, turn it off. Make sure the ringers are off. Otherwise, Paul, please turn. Yeah.
Turn mine off.
Yeah, because your phone will go off about 40 times during this thing.
Yeah. So, all right. Thanks, Frank. I'll make a brief statement and then be glad to talk to take questions and talk about what we're going to do moving forward. I left Albuquerque on Wednesday to go over to Phoenix for the Final Four to fulfill my role on the basketball committee. I did come back to Albuquerque Thursday morning, had discussions with the leadership of the university and Coach Neal, flew back to Phoenix, and there were ongoing discussions with Coach on Friday about how to move the program forward in the best interest of the university and what we can do to continue to move the basketball program in the right direction. Those discussions occurred throughout the day on Friday, and very late Friday night, a decision was made to dismiss Coach Neal. And since that time, I've been fielding a number of calls. I've talked to a number of people. There is a lot of interest in this position. I think it's safe to say, from my perspective, there's more interest now than when Coach Alford and Coach Neal were hired, and I think that's a credit to Coach Alford and to Coach Neal. The success that Steve had and then Craig had early on has really raised the profile of the program, and the interest is more significant than it was when Steve was hired. So I credit both those coaches, and we're actively involved in trying to identify and find a new basketball coach and get somebody in here as soon as possible.
What's the process for finding another coach as you have been working on?
Henry, it really starts before it starts while you have a coach. I think any athletic director would tell you that they have somewhere in the back of their mind, they have you continue to identify candidates for any position you have. In the event your coach is recruited away, dismissed, whatever the case may be, you have an opening. So, and then beyond that, what we're doing right now is trying to identify people who fit the profile. I believe, in addition to the obvious criteria, I think you have to have somebody that can develop talent. We're not necessarily going to get the quote 4 or 5 star player necessarily. So somebody who can develop the talent that's here. Obviously, outstanding recruiting. I think it's important that, and my particular interest at this time is somebody who's a proven head coach. Either they're currently a head coach or have a track record of being a head coach at some point. I think we need somebody who's had proven success and minimize the risk. We're going to have to be creative on the financial package we put together in order to attract the best candidate, and I think that'll be somebody who's willing to be flexible about the financial package as well. Ultimately, you want somebody who wants to be here and who sees the University of New Mexico and our basketball program the way I think we see it internally, which is, we should be in a position to compete for a Mountain West championship every year. It's my view that we ought to be in a position to be under consideration for at-large selection in the tournament if we don't win the tournament. It doesn't mean you're going to get there every year, but you need to be working towards that, and we should be one of the top. We should be a regional and national power, and I think that's all possible. And when I say national power, I mean somebody who's a top 25, top 30 like program, and I think we've been there recently, and there's no reason to suggest we can't do that again.
With the buyout and everything, is that going to, you said, be creative financially? Is that hindering the process a little bit because maybe you don't have the resources that you once had before you had to buy out?
Van, I think this is an outstanding job, and I believe there are a lot of outstanding coaches that will want to be here, and so I simply mean we need to be creative. The buyout for Coach Neal, we owe Coach $500,000 a year for the next 2 years, and I think the expectation is that the athletic department will need to cover that amount. So how do we do that? I think we look at, I think there's a very, I'm of the opinion that we have some of the best basketball fans in the country, and that our fans have been very, very supportive of this program over the years. With the right leader in place, I would expect that our season ticket sales will rise. I would suspect that associated with that we may see an uptick in donations. I think there's reason to believe that we can generate more revenue than we did this particular year, which could help with that buyout. I think contract flexibility, maybe more backloading the contract, could help. And we'll look at other options. I think we need to look at, be flexible and look at a number of options in terms of how we make this financially feasible.
What changed in the last 3 weeks after the season came to an end? You put out the email saying Coach Neal will be back, and then Friday.
I thought it was important, Bob, to make a statement at that time because I thought there was a lot of noise around the program and it was distracting. And I thought it was important to quell that distraction and allow us to focus to move forward. I also said the program would continue to be under evaluation. I think between now and then, we came to the conclusion that in order to get the program where we needed to go, we needed to make a change. There's no one factor, but I think there were a variety of factors that led us to arrive at that point.
Paul, do you have a time frame moving forward, and did you have any semi-formal to formal discussions with any coaches when you were in?
The time is there's a there's always an urgency. You want to get somebody in here as quickly as possible. Certainly our student athletes, there's an anxiety on their end on who's going to be the coach. It'd be my expectation that the new coach would have an opportunity to meet with the young men in the program who have indicated they might want to transfer, and perhaps see if they still want to transfer, an opportunity to potentially re-recruit them to remain here. There is a signing period coming up. There's still an opportunity potentially to recruit some young men to the program. So you want to move as quickly as you possibly can, but you don't want to rush into any decision that hasn't been well thought out. One of the advantages of being in Phoenix this past weekend at the Final Four is that practically every college coach in the whole basketball world outside of the NBA is there. And so I had an opportunity to meet and have conversation with a number of people, whether that was vetting candidates with head coaches whose opinion I respect and trust, or whether that was talking to agents or talking to particular coaches who might have interest in the job. I would say there was a lot of discussion over the weekend, starting about midnight Saturday night, Sunday morning, and has continued, for the last two days. It's been a little bit of a blur between the committee work and the interest expressed by potential candidates and their representatives. There's also a little bit of cat and mouse that goes on. Agents contact you, and sometimes names are leaked on purpose, leaked for other reasons. You're just trying to work through all the dynamics to get the best fit that will work for the University of New Mexico and our student athletes.
Well, regarding the process, is your intention to bring 2 or 3 finalists to the regents and the acting president, or just simply one individual?
Rick, the answer is it depends. Depends on ultimately where we end up in the process. Any key hiring decision at the university, certainly as it relates to athletics, I'm going to make a recommendation, to the leadership of the university on who we think we should hire, and I would presume that's how this process would work. How many people we actually formally interview, that remains to be seen.
Paul, did you have an opportunity to talk to the players, and if so, did they express to you why more than one player, multiple players were leaving? And if you haven't talked to them, what did Neil explain to you as why these people were leaving?
JP, we did do exit interviews with some of I think 3 of the young men that have expressed an interest in transferring. So we did talk to them. I did not have a chance to talk to the team when Coach Neil was dismissed. I suspect they found out through social media or some other fashion, although I did reach out to all 3 of the assistant coaches very late Saturday night, Sunday morning. And just now we met with the team and all the staff and give them an opportunity for some feedback and talk about steps moving forward. Okay, my calendar's a little foggy. I'm sorry, Friday night, Saturday. Yeah, I'm thinking the games were Saturday, they were Friday. Or the decision occurred Friday, rather, yeah.
But they haven't, or didn't necessarily express to you why there was kind of an exodus of players.
There are, transfers in college basketball are the norm. I think the figure I've seen is 40% of Division I college basketball players transfer. But I'm not going to get into the specifics of any of those conversations.
Well, with so many players announcing that they were leaving, did that have any bearing on the decision to not bring Coach Neal back? I guess what I'm getting at is if they don't make that announcement, is he the coach next year?
There were a number of factors involved, and I'd be less than honest if I didn't say that wasn't a factor, but there were other factors as well.
You briefly touched on this, but to cover the $1 million buyout, is the athletic program looking at cuts? Earlier we talked about, season tickets going down. Is that still the case? How will you guys be paying for the buyout?
Well, I want to be clear. It's $500,000 a year, and so in this new budget that will come up starting July 1, we'll have to budget that. Now, Coach Neal does have. There's an offset provision, meaning that if he gets another job, with some caveats, that mitigates what we owe him. And so we're going to look at a variety of options, and we don't have all the answers yet, but clearly the buyout and the cost of the buyout weighed into the decision we had to make, and whether we have great fans who have supported this program, and the kind of revenue we've generated from men's basketball has been significant. It has decreased, and I think there's reason to believe that we can generate some additional revenues with new leadership that would help with the buyout, would help with we owe Coach Neal. I think there's reason to believe that we could structure a contract a little differently with the new coaching staff coming in that could help. So there's a variety of ways. We'll look at playing a guarantee game potentially in men's basketball. So there are a number of options, and we'll continue to look at all of them.
Along the same lines as like the players leaving.
I'm sorry, man. I'm having a hard time hearing
Okay,
you.
I said along the same lines like the players leaving. I'm not trying to beat a dead horse here. I'm just trying to see the fans outcry and stuff like that, because when you came out with the statement that said he was going to be here for next season, and then all of a sudden it changes to this. And I know you said it was a variety of factors. Can you tell us like some of the other things that may have led to that?
Well, again, I think when we made the statement, I thought there was enough what I would call noise around the program that would have been a distraction. I thought it was important to allow the program to move forward. So we made the statement that at that time I thought was the appropriate thing to do. I don't know the specific amount of time that transpired, probably 2-3 weeks at least. And in that time, as we continue to evaluate the program and assess, there were some things that influenced our decision, and transfers are certainly a part of it. Economics are a part of it. So there, as there is any time you make decisions, there's usually a number of factors involved.
Regarding the new coach and the new contract, can the buyout possibly be structured in a different way that it diminishes with time?
Absolutely, yes. You know, I think part of what we deal with, Rick, is when you're in a contract negotiation and when you're recruiting and trying to hire coaches, your market is not Albuquerque. Your market is not necessarily the Mountain West, although that's a huge part of it. You're competing nationally for talent, and your contracts can vary from hire to hire, even vary with longevity of a particular coach. And we'll assess what our contract looks like. We'll assess buyout provisions to protect the university, as well as a coach's representative would try and protect the coach's interests, and all that's part of a negotiation.
There's been a lot of names that have been floated out there as a potential coach. Are any of these names that are out there on your particular short list that you've had floating around?
I'm not going to comment on any candidates. I know there's probably a lot of names, and the internet and talk radio, it's probably good for ratings and hits and views. So anything to make our friends in the radio industry, make it help them, that's what we're trying to do.
Without revealing any names, earlier this afternoon you mentioned you've always got somebody on your backup list. Were the people on your backup list available? Have you talked to them? And then also, who's emerged through your conversations and just being in Phoenix, who's emerged that maybe wasn't on your list that you're giving some consideration to? And if you can't name the names, I respect that, but is that situation occurring? So the first people you thought of that's on your backup list, are they available? And are there new people that weren't on your list that you're giving consideration to?
You know, the best way to conduct a search is to do it in as quiet a way as possible. You don't want to lose candidates. You don't want people who may have current jobs to pull themselves out of availability because it compromises their position if their name gets out. And so I'm really not going to comment on any candidates. What I can tell you is that the interest is real, that it's significant, that there are a number of sitting Division I head coaches who have expressed interest. What we are trying to do at this point is focus on who we think fits our profile the best and move forward as quickly as possible without rushing any decision.
And has anyone declined your invitation to meet and discuss the opportunity? Any turndowns?
You know, I would say that, again, a lot of interest, and we really haven't conducted any what I would call real formal interview. There's just been a lot of the discussion at this point is trying to figure out who's interested and making sure that the interest is real and the feeling's mutual.
JJ and Trey.
Late last week, were there any negotiations between Craig Neal and yourself about possible renegotiations for he to continue to be the head coach, or was it just strictly about the deadline and moving on?
JJ, there were a number of discussions on Thursday and Friday about moving the program forward and trying to do what was in the best interest of the basketball program, and the discussions occurred all day. Significant discussions Thursday and Friday, and looking at all the options, and again, what was in the best interest of the program. And you know, I believe Craig Neal is a very good basketball coach. I believe he's a winner. I believe if you look at his track record, he's been around a lot of programs. There's been a lot of success, and a lot of that's attributed directly to Craig. Our academic performance in the classroom has never been better. The young men in the program have behaved themselves admirably off the court, and so there's a lot to like about what Craig, who he is and what he's done. And you know, I believe he's done a good job here, and I wish him all the best.
You mentioned noise around the program that led to the decision. Were you aware of any noise or unrest inside the program before you made the decision?
Again, what I would say about the decision is that we came to the conclusion that it was in our best interest to move forward and dismiss Craig. And you ask, what are the reasons? There's always a variety of reasons. There's never one reason.
You talked about the negotiations, the 3 days back and forth. Can you take us inside there, exactly what was being negotiated, and who said at the end, this is not good for me, it's not good for my side, not good for the university side? And one final follow-up to that would be, what was Coach Neal's response when you told him we're moving in a different direction and you terminated?
What I would say, Bob, is there were discussions back and forth throughout the day, Thursday and Friday. Keep in mind that on Thursday afternoon and Friday, I was back in Phoenix. So I'm not privy to every, I'm not aware of every back and forth discussion. But the discussion centered on looking at all of our options and trying to do what was best moving the program forward. And a number of things were discussed.
Who said that they weren't good with the final results after the negotiations back and forth?
It's my understanding that our university council notified Craig or his representative that we were moving forward.
And you notified Coach Neal that he was being terminated? Or
No, I did not. The university council did.
You talked to him since then?
That's my understanding. Again, keep in mind that I was in Phoenix and I wasn't, at that point I was not, the conversations would have been with our attorney. At least that's my understanding from, 500 miles away.
Have you talked to them personally?
Have I talked to Coach Neal? No.
Paul, do you anticipate any cuts in the athletic department to help kind of compensate for this and that going each year? And can you specifically go through who's responsible for the hiring? Are you in a committee, just you?
JP, we've been looking at cuts in our athletic department and reductions in expenses, as well as trying to increase revenues for the last year. So, and we continue to look at revenue reductions as the state and the university continue to struggle financially. Those affect us, and so expense reductions have been part of an ongoing process for us for a while now. The hiring process would be me making a recommendation to the leadership of the university on who I believe would be the next best candidate, but it's not done in a vacuum. There's engagement from key individuals at the university, and there typically always is on key hires.
As you guys are trying to put it together a competitive package for the next candidate, are you going to be able to pay him as much as you were able to pay Craig, or does it come down a bit because of the other expenses?
Well, Van, I don't think you approach contract negotiations that way. It depends on the candidate and the compensation needed to attract the best candidate for the job. And part of that's what are they making now? What do you need to attract? You don't want to pay people any more than you have to. You want to pay people fairly for their responsibility, and there's a lot of responsibility for being the head men's basketball coach at the university. It's a highly competitive market. You want to pay a fair wage, and there's a negotiation back and forth. And I'm very comfortable saying that we will have the resources to attract highly qualified people who want to be here. The job, I've said it repeatedly, I'll say it again, there is significant interest in this job from highly respected coaches, outstanding coaches who have had success. And the economic package that we put in front of a coach, whatever that ends up being, will be such that we will be able to attract the right kind of people. We're going to be good stewards of the money. We're going to do everything we can to strike the best deal we can. But I am very, very confident that we will get the right person will not be an issue. And when I say not be an issue, it will allow us to attract the individual that we want to attract.
Paul, prior to Friday, as you evaluated the necessity to have a meeting, what was the pulse of the community? What was the state condition of the program? Or better in layman's terms, how injured has the program become?
Henry, I can't speak to the pulse of the community. What I know is that when was all said and done, and after multiple discussions, we've made a change, and I believe our community will rally around this program. They always have, and that we have great fans, and they'll be very supportive.
I want to make sure we have time for the game, so we're just going to go around each person, make sure everyone's good, okay? We'll just start right with Rick. Anything else?
Paul, will the buyout be paid out in 24 monthly installments?
That's the plan, yes.
Would that go into the third fiscal year, and would that ease the burden a little bit?
I don't know all the specifics, Rick, of exactly the specific timeline. I suspect that it would start, in the next month and would run 2 calendar years, but I'm sure there'll be some attorney discussion back and forth. But I think it's important to note that this is not a lump sum payment. This is a buyout. My understanding, it would be on a monthly basis, spread over 2 years. So the impact on our budget is, in a worst-case scenario, $500,000. And there is a mitigation clause, meaning that if Coach Neal gets another job in the basketball world, and there's some restrictions on exactly what that means, that compensation would offset what we owe him. So, there's an opportunity that it's something less than $500,000.
Talk about moving in a different direction. If you look back on this past season, the last 3 seasons, but really specifically this year, what was lacking? What did you not see from the basketball team that you expected to see?
When it's all said and done, Bob, we need to be, we need to win more games, and we need to be competing for a conference championship. And, we didn't win as many games as I would like. You would argue there were injuries. There were other factors that played into that, and all that has to be considered. So we need to be a dominant program in this league, and a program that is to be reckoned with on a regional, national basis. And I admire the totality of what Craig's done, but in the end, we decided to move in a different direction.
Yeah, Coach, the recruits that have said, not recruits, the players that said they want to leave, is there a time frame to when they can talk to other coaches and coaches can talk to them? And then is Brown, is that separate too because he's a 5th-year senior? Or how does that work as far as coaches contacting them and the kids contacting other coaches to go somewhere else?
I am not an expert on the NCAA rules. I have a very good general knowledge. We have in-house experts that know all the specifics. My general understanding is that a young man who would want to transfer a school would request a release from us, and we would grant that release for the school to talk to the individual. Elijah's a little bit of a different case because he would be what's called a graduate transfer, meaning that if he graduates, there are basically no restrictions. He's free to go where he chooses. We have 2 people in this room, Eric Schultz and Janice, who are in the back of the room, that if you wanted to get really into the specifics, they are experts, subject matter experts, and you're welcome to talk to them.
You mentioned a couple times a creative financial package. Have you ever dealt with that, hiring a coach, or know of any contracts around the country that have been built that way?
Well, I think every contract can be potential to be creative. You look at incentives, you look at buyouts, you look at, when I say creative, I'm talking about probably a little less income on the front end and a little more on the back end, and that's hardly unusual. you scale it to where there's a base amount in year one and it may escalate over time. So creative in the sense that it's not necessarily the same amount every year. But there's always an opportunity to be creative in how you attract potential candidates.
Do you have anything specific in terms of, you talked about fan showing support, donors coming out to help with the program. Do you think there could be a raise in the cost of season tickets or ticket prices?
We are not anticipating raising prices. I think we need to be very clear about a couple of things. There's no intention to raise prices. I said previously, and I will repeat, that we are looking at our pricing model for basketball just like we looked at football. The good news is we're already seeing, for us, a significant increase in football ticket sales year to date from previous years in terms of new ticket buyers. Coach Neal's dismissal really won't factor in the fact that we had planned on reviewing our basketball ticket prices. There is absolutely no intention of raising prices. We'll look at whether we should scale the house differently. We're on record already saying we're going to take a look at whether our prices are appropriate and whether we need to scale them differently, where there may be some prices that are a little less. Based on initial fan reaction, email, and it's anecdotal at this point, but a number of people, there's been reason to believe that a number of people that might have been dropping their tickets will retain those.
You said that the final decision was made by the University Council?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't say that. I said the final decision to create was communicated by University Council.
Is that typical?
When you're dealing with lawyers and contracts, yes. When I say that, again, please keep in mind, I was in Phoenix. I'm 500 miles away. There were discussions all day I was aware of, engaged in. The communication, my understanding is the actual communication came from our council in written form. So the council did not make the decision. And I'm, as best I know, that letter came. I've seen a copy of the letter. I'm sure it will be requested, but it came to, was it sent and then hand delivered? I don't know the specifics because I'm in a hotel room in another city.
So you said the negotiations were between the lawyers, or was the University Council recommended by you that if X and Y weren't met to end negotiations?
Again, let me be clear. There were discussions all day long between a number of people. I was aware of the discussions, engaged in the discussions. I personally wasn't doing the discussions. And in any situation like that, when you're looking at options, it involves a number of entities.
Everyone's standing up from the right. Oh, Joe Neal, then we'll go standing up right to left.
Paul, you mentioned on 2 occasions the specifics of the buyout as it related to Craig Neal. And how if he got another job, that money that is owed to him might be offset by the income he earned with that other job related to basketball. Are most of these buyouts done, just generally speaking, in a similar way? And if so, could that be a benefit to you in your search if coaches are in that similar situation themselves?
It's very astute, Joe. Buyouts are a part of our enterprise, and most coaches' contracts have a buyout where if they leave the university, they may owe, and if the university removes them for what's called without cause, there's some compensation coming to the coaches. So when you're talking to coaches who, quote, are on the market, could we be talking to people who may be owed money from another university and that would reduce what we might pay them? Absolutely. That's certainly a possibility.
Mr. Coach, you're going to start the year $500,000 in the hole. Even though you get to pay Neal over 12 months, you're starting in that's a pretty substantial hole to begin with. And year after year, the athletic department has lost money. Do you ever have concerns about your job?
I wouldn't necessarily characterize it as starting $500,000 in the hole. We're going to be obligated to budget that money, and we'll look at ways that we need to. We continue to look at ways on how we're going to pay for that. And as I've tried to say repeatedly, I think there are a number of options, whether that's structuring a contract a little differently, whether that's ticket sales. And keep in mind, when ticket sales go up, a large majority of our tickets have donations tied to them. So it's not just ticket sales going up, it's donations potentially going up. So it's still a little early to have final resolution, but the budget is always a concern, and we'll continue to look at ways to figure this thing out within our budget. The people that I work for evaluate my performance.
Thanks for sharing with us that there are some quality coaches that we may recognize that are interested in this job. I feel better knowing that the reputation of the program and the institution and city are approved of recent history. But have you encountered any resistance, or you have found any difficulty that we're not a Power 5 conference? You might be able to get a bigger name coach or somebody in the comments here, but they don't want to go because it's not Power 5.
I think what is attractive to coaches, the name of the pit, the history, the tradition of this program over time. There was an article recently, I think the NCAA put it out, or somebody put it out a week or two ago. We were the 55th top program in the country. You look at our attendance, you look at our fan base, you look at our facilities, you look at how important basketball is to this state and to many people who live outside of New Mexico. One of the few, in terms of athletics, their knowledge of New Mexico is based on Lobo basketball and the pit, the national championship in '83. So we're not finding any lack of candidates and qualified candidates. And what also attracts people is the opportunity to be the best in your league. And we have shown consistently over time that we can and are one of the best programs in our league. Coaches want to go places where they can win, and where they can win championships. And we've proven over time, whether it's Coach Neal or Coach Alford or Coach Bliss or Coach King, whoever, that you can come here and you can win championships. And those are the things. Between that and the facilities and the fan base and the tradition, those are the things that resonate with coaching candidates.
So did Gonzaga making the finals last night help your cause? I mean, if you have the right facilities, support, program, everything, you can win no matter where you are?
I think in some way for all of the underdogs and all the smaller programs in the, non-Power 5, Gonzaga offers hope for everybody. I will tell you, the way they're built and the way they're structured, they look more like a Power 5 basketball program than many that are in the Power 5. But I think it created hope coming out of the West Coast Conference that, and it's not just Gonzaga. You look at Wichita State, you look at Butler, George Mason a number of years ago. Those opportunities can be there.
You kind of touched on it earlier. But is there a sense of urgency to give yourself a timetable to get this locked up because of players, taking care of the players, making sure they're around, and other players that you might be able to go get because of the time that it is now?
Yeah, I think there's an urgency, Van, in that there's a lot of moving parts, and you want to move as quickly as you can to create to ease the anxiety and give a clear picture to our coaches or to our student athletes. You want to get somebody in here that can begin to move the program forward and get our fan base excited. And for all those things, the sooner there's clarity, the better. But it's not a race, and you can make a mistake if you try and go too quickly just to get it done. So you move as quickly as you can, but making sure that there has been some vetting and the due diligence has been done, and you're not rushing into anything.
But do you have a solid area where you say we can't get past this gate because it's going to be too long?
You know, that would depend on the candidate, and if there's, depending upon what candidates are doing and involved in, I can tell you the sooner the better. But hey, if you don't have a candidate by date X, the minute I say that and we don't hit that date for some very logical reason, you all are going to be reporting that it's a failed search and nobody's interested. So, you know, I'm not going to do that.
Well, the school's never seen a dip in attendance and really an increase in fan apathy like it has the last 3 or 4 years. Is it as easy a fix as just finding a new coach going in a different direction, or is it a business model thing? What do you have to do?
Well, 4 years ago when we won the championship, revenue and attendance was never higher. So I don't know that the dip's been exactly 4 years. There's no question the last 2 years, there's always some variance up and down based on the expectations, team. But I would agree the last 2 years we've seen a significant reduction in ticket sales and in attendance. Which is partly why I said earlier, and we said when we were having the discussion about football tickets, that I do think we need to take a hard look at our ticket pricing, our model. And again, to make clear, that's not with the intention of increasing anything, but are we pricing ourselves out? Are we making it? Are we making Lobo basketball unaffordable for families, for the next generation of Lobo fans? And whether that's scaling the house a little differently, where we have some cheaper prices, you know, reductions, you know, marketing differently. I think all those things are in play, and so it's not just who the coach is, but it's a variety of factors. And we had planned on assessing that prior to the change, and we'll do that. But I also think that a new coach will create some optimism, will create some enthusiasm. You know, the expectation is the coach will be actively involved in the community, and we'll need to help restore faith. But we have some of the best, most passionate fans in the country, and if you look at the history of attendance here, even when it dips, it's some of the best attendance in the country. And so I'm confident that with the right leadership and the right pricing model in place, that our fans will be excited and support this program.
So along those lines, do you need a charismatic personality to come in here and take over the program?
You know, in our business, you talk about how you want to win the press conference, and you want somebody who's going to come in here and create a lot of splash and a lot of excitement. You know, that's nice, but that doesn't win you games. And so what's really important is to get the right coach who can develop and teach and recruit and create a system where we win games. And ultimately, winning puts fans in the seats. If it so happens that hire creates a little buzz, either because they're charismatic or because they've been at a program that's won a national championship, or they've taken a program a certain level of success, all those things, you know, can help you. But you have to get the right coach who's going to develop your student athletes, hold them accountable in the classroom, on the playing court, and win games. And so that's probably ultimately more important than the charisma that a coach may have.
Okay. This is the last question. Right?
There was a well-regarded recruit class coming in. Has there been any feedback from those players as to whether they want to remain potential Lobos or what their status is?
When I reached out to the coaching staff, Coach Huss and Coach Harriman and Coach Rencher on Friday night, I did ask them to contact the recruits. My memory may not be exact, but I think we have 3 young men who have signed and a 4th who had committed, who signs within the next 10 days or so. I know that they have. I know our coaches, our assistant coaches, and we've named Coach Huss as interim head coach. I know that either Alan or the assistants have all contacted the recruits and kind of walked them through the scenarios. My understanding right now is that everything's fine, but we understand that's a fluid situation. And to Van's point earlier about timing, that's yet another reason why you want to get somebody in here sooner rather than later, because you're to some degree you want to reach out, kind of re-recruit them, assure them that you've got the right leader and expectations for the program, et cetera. So it's part of the perceived urgency is to make sure that they are comfortable with the leadership and the new direction.
All right, with that, we're gonna have Paul come out. There's way too many people here. Dane has said he would be happy to come up here and just answer questions. I am not gonna have Dane go for 46 minutes.
Is that how long I went?
Yeah, you're about 46 minutes. So Dane, why don't you come on up? We'll keep Dane's a little bit shorter than that. No pressure, big guy.
Yeah.
Dane will not have an opening. There won't be an opening statement. We'll just open it right to questions, and we'll start right here with JP.
And obviously, people leave for different reasons. Some want playing time, some don't get along with the coach. But when you have at least 4 guys all kind of say they want to leave at once, it's a little concerning from your perspective, being inside on the team. Why do you think there was more than one person that kind of all wanted to leave?
I'm honestly not really sure. I haven't really talked to them personally about it. Yeah, it's a tough situation when, really high, low-ranked program 3-4 years ago, and then you go through a dry spell of losing, and it's hard for everyone to handle, and so maybe they just want to get out and get a new place, so I can't really speak for them, but that's my feeling.
Was there a down mood with the team? I mean, was there...
I'd say after losing that first tournament game there was, but that's pretty normal, so.
Was there something internal? I mean, did everybody get along with coach? Was there something going on the team to create kind of like a toxic environment?
I'm not really sure. The mood was always good with everyone and coach. I love coach. I'm pretty sure everyone loved coach, so I can't really speak for those guys, but that's really what I know. So.
What are your feelings now, knowing that he's not going to be here? It's going to be another guy. I mean, how are you embracing that? And then the guys who's supposed to stay, what is it like for them?
It was unfortunate for coach to get fired, but it's a business. It happens, and so I'm kind of taking it as it could be a good situation, Just see who the new guy is and just go along with it. That's what I'm thinking.
JJ Buckets.
What's the last few days been like for you personally?
I don't know, just a lot of thinking and kind of just going with everything, talking to Coach Neal a little bit, and I don't know, it's kind of been a big fiasco, but I'm just trying to handle it the best I can. It's kind of hard.
How did you find out and when?
I found out on Twitter, like Mr. Krebs said about the social media, but Coach Neal called me right after that, so it was nice to hear from him.
So how did that make you feel? I think that's appropriate to find out on Twitter. Is that just the way it is?
That's just the way it is nowadays,
Okay.
Yeah.
So why are you here? Of all the remaining members of the team, were you selected by the team, the university? I'm glad to see you're here. I like it. Like I told you before, I get the best jump shot of info.
Yeah.
So why are you here today?
I don't know. I love this university. I love this team. I love the program. So I feel like I do a good job representing us and be able to answer questions. And so.
So I guess who asked you, the coach or the university?
Our SID asked me.
Oh, I was curious. Why
Yeah.
you all did.
Yeah.
He's been here for a while, so of the guys that are left, Dan, I think he's been here for long.
Yeah.
Dane, fewer tickets have been sold of late, more empty seats in the pit. Did you ever feel that the environment changed at all, and did that affect the team?
I don't really think it did. When you're out there, you can't really. Doesn't matter if there's 2,000 less people, it's still just as loud. So I mean, I don't know. It's fun to be out there. So I don't really worry about how many people are in the stands. I get to play the game that I love. So.
Dane, I thought you said you talked to Coach Neal since since this happened? How's he holding up?
He's holding up good, I think. You know, the best he can, but yeah. So that's all I can comment on that.
When you look at the last couple years, just team-wise, what do you think maybe was just missing from you guys being able to take that next step?
You know, I'm not really sure because I wasn't here I was just here for the 2 years, and we had about 50% records, so I can't really say what was missing. You know, we had spurts where we were playing great, and we had spurts where we weren't playing great, so we just needed to find something. We just couldn't. So.
Dane, have you kind of communicated with the guys that are going to be here? Have you talked a little bit about what's going on between all you guys and kind of sticking together, that type of thing?
Yeah, I'm just trying to keep them optimistic, you know, kind of glass half full type thing. You know, it could be a great situation that we're getting a new coach. It could be a bad one. You don't know. So I'm just trying to keep them optimistic and trying to get everyone to stay.
Are you kind of the leader, it sounds like, to me?
I'm trying to take up that role, yes.
I was gonna ask you, did you know, like when Cullen was here and all that stuff happened, and you know, like me being a father myself, that was just like draining. Was there a change then? You know, did the coach probably lose some of his passion, or did you guys lose any energy around that time when all that stuff happened and he ended up transferring? You know, just all this unfair stuff.
You know, it's hard to deal with for like a coach to kind of lose his, you know, have to give up his son like that. But I think it helped that he had us. So, you know, go over to his house, you know, have spaghetti dinner on Sundays. So, I don't know. I feel like having us there was definitely good for him.
You said you loved this university. Was there any thought in your head once Neil left, because you were kind of close to him, of you leaving? And has this experience here at UNM been what you expected when you first got here 2 years ago?
I don't really have like a thought of leaving, because my parents always taught me when you start something, you finish it. So no matter what happens, just stick with it. And can you repeat the second part of your question?
I was just wondering if this whole experience is what you expected it to be when you first arrived at New Mexico just a couple of years ago.
Well, obviously, like we haven't had the best seasons the past couple seasons, but it's been everything that I've expected. The pit's been rocking, we're playing, and I've loved my time here. So.
Dane, some of the guys have mentioned that they're open perhaps rescinding their transfers and coming back. Maybe do you try to lobby for them, or do you try to keep in contact with them, kind of gauge where they're at?
I don't really talk with them too much about it, honestly, but I definitely want them here. So if I can talk to them about that, that's really what I say.
Do you think it'll matter on who the coach is?
It might, but I'm not too sure. It's up to them, really.
Now it goes off?
Yeah.
Now it goes off, an hour later.
What would you like to see in a new head coach? I mean, if they came to you and asked you, hey, what do we need to get this thing done?
I think a guy with a lot of great positive energy, you know, ready to get us working, and a guy who's optimistic too. You know, a new coach wants to come in and try to rough us up a little bit, but I think it's just a good, strong leader would be nice. You know.
Anything else for Dane?
Yeah, so a more positive attitude would be good.
Yeah, a positive attitude is good for anybody. So, you know.
And what about the three guys, well, other than Elijah? Those three guys, have you had a conversation with them, or are you trying to ask them to stay? Hey, hang out, let's finish this deal. Like your attitude?
Just trying to keep them into it and try to convince them not to leave. But it's their decision. So.
So you have had that conversation.
Well, I mean, just like little bits, like hey, what are you doing? You know. But I can't really speak too much for them right now.
Last one right here.
You hear the names that are being thrown out there as far as the coaches. I mean, how much do you pay attention to that? Do you listen to the names?
I honestly haven't heard that many names as of right now, so I'm just waiting to see who it is. Give them a chance.
Someone's not on Twitter much.
Oh, I don't go on Twitter at all.
There you go. That's why I had her name. All right, we good? Hey guys, seriously, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thanks, Dane.